Welcome to the Even Better podcast, where your host, Sinikka Waugh of Your Clear Next Step, brings you exciting content about making communities better by helping people get even better at work.
Well, welcome, my friends. Thank you so much for joining us on the Even Better podcast. This is Sinikka Waugh, your host, and I am delighted to welcome back my dear friend, Mel Worrel-Johnson. Mel, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, Sinikka, I always look forward to I feel like it's like a fireside chat. But yes, I am ready for our conversation today. I'm very happy to be here.
This is awesome. So the listeners who are just joining in, if you don't know Mel, then you got to stop. Like, just hit the pause button and go check out her bio, go check out some of the other podcasts, because Mel is just so inspiring and such a delight to hang out with. She is just one of those people who lifts others up. She has this amazing background in leadership and talent development and business strategy. And I have seen her focus on developing people and developing teams, and just in the moment that she's in, connecting with the other person and helping them see where they are and how they can just move forward, even just a little bit, just help them move forward. And I know that she does that as with individuals, with executives, and career advancement, and balancing all the things in our lives, right? So lots and lots of things you can learn about Mel, but what I love most about her is that every time I walk away from a conversation with Mel, I know that I have been in the presence of someone who wants me to be a better human, and I delight in that. So here we are, Mel. We're talking about emotional intelligence, which is one of those things that you help us all get better at. And you don't say that emotional intelligence is a nice to have. You say that emotional intelligence is critical. And so we're going to be talking today about 4 reasons that emotional intelligence is critical to our teams, our organization, and to ourselves. So first off, before we dive into the topics, why are we talking about emotional intelligence today? Why would you pick that as a theme for today?
Man, emotional intelligence for me it's no longer a game changer, it's table stakes. And as individuals and as leaders, if we are not aware of our emotional intelligence and the emotional intelligence of those around us, we need to stop. We need to stop right now and dig into emotional intelligence. It's that important.
It's that important. It's great. It's critical. It's critical. It's not optional. It's critical. And so I know that you are an executive coach, and I know that you help people lead, and you help people lead people, and people lead organizations, and people lead themselves. But this works. This emotional intelligence concept, it's not just for executives. It's not just for people leaders. It's for people who are anywhere in their career, right? This is so wherever our podcast listeners are listening, this stuff still applies. Yes.
Absolutely. Whether you are an individual contributor to a people leader to the top of the table, right, in an organization, emotional intelligence is a have to. It's foundational, right? When I talk about emotional intelligence, I talk about a 4-tiered cake, and it is foundational to how we operate, from boots on the ground all the way to the top of the decision-making tree within an organization.
You bet. And one of the things that I just really delight in about this concept, and you are one of the partners who is one of our featured trainers and partners who works with us in our Changemakers cohort and teaches our Changemakers and facilitates our Changemakers series. And that very first class, the very first class in our Changemakers program is emotional intelligence, right? It's the art and science of emotional intelligence. So we understand that it is the foundational piece. It's the cornerstone upon which everything else is built in the whole rest of the program. So let's get into why it's critical. So 4 reasons it's critical. So the first one that you shared in advance here is that it differentiates. It's the wedge for great versus good leaders. So unpack that a little bit for us.
Yeah. And when I was thinking about this, I think about, as individuals in our roles, we think about what are the things we need to focus on. And I call it the 3 glass balls, right? Like, what are the 3 glass balls that you need to keep in the air at all times? If they drop, they're never quite the same. And that for me is a differentiator of good versus great leaders, is being really hyper aware of what those glass balls are. I'd say one that needs to be part of that is our emotional intelligence. And here's why I say that: our ability to be hyper aware of our soft skills, our people skills, how we're reading other people's emotions, how we're aware of our current state, and knowing where we are in the moment before we go into a great conversation, a hard conversation, a team meeting, giving a presentation to the board, right? Whatever that may be, our ability to know where we are in the current moment of our current state of emotion and our emotional intelligence has an absolute impact on how we land, how we show up, how we say what we say. And it's not the words. We talk about this in Changemakers programs. Around 7% of what we say is the impact, the words. The rest of it is about how we say it and our body language. That's our emotional intelligence, right? 93% all ties back to emotional intelligence.
Yep. And it is the differentiator. If you can master that, if you can understand, I love that image of the three glass balls that you're juggling. What a powerful visual. Oh, I'm going to wrestle with that for a bit now. I'm going to
It's
have
one of my
to.
favorite goes to is how do you figure out we all have so much that we're responsible for, but if you had three or five balls, right, that are glass, if you break them and you put them back together, even with a magnifying glass and the best glue and the best tools, it is never the same integrity that it was initially. And if you keep laser focus on those 3 to 5, how does that keep you really in alignment with the most important things?
That's really beautiful. All right. So one of the next things that we talk about in our organization for sure, but in success as humans and in success in moving forward in organizations is authentic human connection, and emotional intelligence is a way to drive that. So the second thing that you say, it's so critical to us, it drives authentic human connection. So unpack that for us a little bit. What does that look like for you?
Oh, so this one for me, while it maybe sounds simple, is connection is key. We move the needle in all organizations with people, through people, because of people. An authentic human connection, people know when you are being genuine or not genuine. And our emotional intelligence and our ability to make those connections deeper and not have them be surface, it doesn't mean that we overshare. Emotional intelligence isn't about oversharing. It's about having true, real connections. And Sinikka, for me, when I thought about this, an authentic human connection, I tied it back to how many amazing people that we look up to as leaders and thought, oh, the people that make us think even bigger. Adam Grant, Brené Brown, Simon Sinek, the book I'm listening to right now, Radical Candor. It's all about connection. And when I was thinking about this, Adam Grant is one of my Fab Fives, and he says something about I actually looked it up because I wanted to have it. He says, what matters most for the well-being is the quality of the connections, not the quantity. How do we really make sure that those authentic human connections we have are quality? And that is done by and through our and others' emotional intelligence.
Right, because how can you have a quality connection with someone if you're all distorted and messed up because you're having a crappy or an off day, or you're trying to connect with someone and they're having a crappy or off day, or you misalign because you've misread or not paid attention to something else that's distracting, and you're not paying attention to their moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Oh,
it's a give and take. And if you see something that someone seems not their usual present state, how do you say something? Our ability to recognize and truly be there in the moment for that other human, man, it's about our awareness. But for me, it matters so much more that you're really seeing the other person.
well, and that's going to get us to the third one, which is it's that way for all of us to check our authenticity and put people first. So I love this. I have seen you do this over and over again, and I wouldn't let you have this on your list of the reasons it's critical if I didn't know you did this. Like, I know you do this. You put people first. And so emotional intelligence is a way to put people first and have that people first approach. Give us an example. Like, what does that look like? You were starting to just share it when you see that someone's having an off day. So then what? How does emotional intelligence, what do you
Yeah.
do with good emotional intelligence then?
It's such a great question. So there's many examples that come to mind, and one that I'll use is I'm working with a team right now, and there was a group of leaders, and I see them every week from 4 to 5 p.m. And there was a gentleman who always leans in and he shares ideas, and he is incredible and he brings such value to the class. And there was a class probably 3 weeks ago, and he was different. There was something about his present, right? His current state that was different. And I would never call this out in the room, right? Because one, psychological safety. So my emotional intelligence is that you read the room, and if you notice something is different, you say something to make sure they know you care and that you're recognizing something is off. And so after class, I said, hey, do you have a minute? And he's like, of course, Mel, I'll stay. And I said, hey, I feel like something's a little different today. I just want to check in and make sure you're okay. And he shared something with me super personal. And it really, like, it even now makes me a little emotional to think about what he was navigating and that he still showed up. And he wasn't his usual personality. And at the end, he said, Mel, it was a really hard week and it's going to be a couple hard weeks. And it means a lot that you recognize. And I said, is there anything I can do to support? Right? Support means walking side by side, not doing it for them. And he said, no, you asking, just asking and acknowledging, recognizing that something was different has an impact. And he came back the next week and he was a little more to his usual like energy level. And this week he was back. And our ability to recognize that someone is navigating something hard and to say something, it doesn't mean we need to fix it, but they need to know that we see them, that we truly see them, that something is different. Those are those moments when we know someone cares for us. It makes me think of the line, people don't care how much you know until you know how much you care. I say that a lot because I don't care how smart you are. If you can't have that emotional intelligence to recognize that someone needs us to just check in, doesn't mean you need to do something, but that they know you're there. Oh man, trust, being a real person, authentically caring for others. That's powerful. It's the only word that comes to me is powerful, that people know we're there for them and that we have people in our lives who are there for us too.
Yeah. Love it. Thank you. So the fourth reason that emotional intelligence is critical to our teams, our organization, and ourselves is that it's always, as you say, a work in progress. We have not arrived. So this truth, I imagine that you mean it's true of each of us, but not just us, but the people around us. So let's talk that through a little bit. We've not arrived.
Yeah, we have not arrived. This language, Sinikka, this is language from you, right? You share this, you say this all the time. You live this, right? And how you operate and how your clear next step is always thinking about how do we do things even better, right? And when we think about this as individuals and as humans, our ability to realize that we're always growing, we're always turning up the volume a little bit, we're always moving the needle a little bit, we're always trying to, lots of analogies here, sharpen our saw or be the best that we can be, and know that there's always room to grow, whatever that looks like. Sometimes when I say turn up the volume, it could be that we have to turn something down, right? Maybe our directness is usually a level 8 and it's not about turning it up. It's actually about turning it down. How do we show up at a 5 instead of a 9, right? And so our ability and our emotional intelligence to be aware that there's always room to grow and change and become our best self is critical. To come back to our beginning about emotional intelligence is critical. And we've all met individuals that know everything, have it all figured out. They don't need help. They don't need to grow. And there's a difference in those of us that are aware that we have not arrived. We never arrive. We're always a work in progress. And leaders and individuals who have that learning mindset of there's always more to learn and always a different way to look at something. Even if I've heard something about emotional intelligence 100 times, the 101th time, I'm going to learn something new or see it from a different lens or a different perspective. And so when I think about the best leaders, the good to great leaders, we know that we're constantly a student of the game and we never lose sight of we have an opportunity to grow and learn something new. And we don't know who that's coming from or where it might come from, but we are open to it.
As you think about how this has played out in the Changemakers program that you've been a part of, now you've worked with a couple of different cohorts now, and you've seen them grow their emotional intelligence. You've watched the participants grow in this, and you've seen the curriculum unfold. It starts with an initial course on the foundations, right? The art and science of emotional intelligence, and then we build on top of that, and we have intentionally layered classes on emotional intelligence, authentic human connection, with things like putting the good of the business first and returning business value. And we layer those so that we're putting things on top of each other and learning pieces of things and then going a chance to practice and then laying. But how have you seen that play out? What kinds of emotional intelligence growth have you seen as you've been working with the participants?
Yeah, such a great question. And here's what I see. And this happens in every class. And I can say every and always are hard words to say and to stand behind. However, when folks show up for class in that first class and you see those aha moments when they start to think about emotional intelligence differently, right? Or how it layers and they're like, oh, wow, I haven't thought about it that way. And then you come into the fourth or fifth class, right? They've had classes along the way and we ask, what have you noticed or what have you done differently? And without fail, there's at least one individual who will say, I went into a conversation differently because of my awareness of where I was at and how I was self-managing, right? Those first two pieces of emotional intelligence. Or an individual say something like, I knew this situation was an emotional trigger for me. And because I had awareness and my mindset, the conversation or the meeting or the event went so differently because of my awareness. And emotional intelligence helps us be our best and be aware of when we might have a potential for it to be harder. But that awareness brings us into a space where we prepare differently. We acknowledge that it's going to be hard. And it doesn't mean it still isn't hard, but we navigate it with much more grace and awareness than we did before. And every class, you see those things surface around how our change makers are leaning into and approaching meetings differently because of their awareness and growth, each class that they're adding to that emotional intelligence of how they operate and engage with other individuals.
Fantastic. Thanks for that illustration. So the trademark question, what's making you even better these days, Mel?
You know, what's making me even better right now is the individuals that I get to partner with, the questions that they ask, the situations that they bring to the table, the insights that they bring to classes around what they've seen. And I learn something new every day from the people around me. And it's funny, someone said the other day, well, you're the expert. I said, well, actually, I'm here to be a partner with you and walk side by side. And I suspect that we are both equally experts in different ways. And so it's the grace and the topics that come to surface and the people that I get to partner with every day are keeping me and sharp, right? And aware of what my glass balls need to be. And so thankful for the clients and the individuals that we get to work with.
Love it. Love it. Well, for those of you who have joined in, thank you so much for listening. Mel, thank you for your time today. It's always such a joy to spend time with you.
The feeling is mutual, my friend. It is such a joy. And this topic, man, this one is always top of mind for me and something that I have a abundant amount of passion around. Emotional intelligence. Wow, it is table stakes.
Table stakes. And we've just talked through 4 reasons that emotional intelligence is critical to our teams, our organization, and ourselves. If you, as a listener, would like to learn more about that, you can find out more at our website. We've got a ton of resources. We've got a way to connect with Mel Worrel-Johnson on our team. This is just a piece of the many, many things that are available on emotional intelligence through our Changemakers program, which helps you build up your skills in making authentic human connection, in returning business value, and in treating change as a process, not an event. Because that, in fact, my friends, is how we make change stick in our organizations. That's how we accelerate change. That's how we make it stick in our organizations. And that's how we become lasting change makers. If you'd like to learn more about that, our next cohort is coming up soon, and the information is available on our website. In the meantime, thank you so much for listening. We are glad to have you. And on behalf of all of us here at Your Clear Next Step, we hope the rest of your day is even better.
Thank you for tuning in today. The Even Better podcast will be back with more content soon. But in the meantime, subscribe to our podcast or check out our website at yourclearnextstep.com for more information. See you next episode.